I'd like to talk about suicide. This is a serious topic. What I would like to say is, if you feel triggered at any point while watching this video, please just walk away from it, turn it off. That's not my intention here. Okay, so do look after yourselves. But it's important for us to talk about suicide for obvious reasons. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Ghazala. I'm at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're here for the first time, you're very, very welcome. This is a serious topic. Now, I went on a course last week. I was on a 2-day course, and it was an ASIST course. So that's ASIST. It stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. And some of you may have already done that course. Some of you might be aware of it. It was a real eye-opener. Why did I do the course? I'd like to answer that question if it's come up in your mind at all. I already deliver mental health first aid, accredited courses, mainly 2-day courses if it's a level 3 award course. And we cover quite a large topic of suicide. We do cover suicide in that. So it was to enhance my already knowledge that I have. Also, I think probably the main reason of doing this course last week is that I counsel women who have experienced child loss, and I'm very, very sadly getting more and more cases of supporting women whose child has taken their own life. Okay, so it's sad to talk about, but it's something that we have to talk about, and it is uncomfortable. As I say, if anyone feels uncomfortable about the content that we're going to be covering on this video, then please turn it off, walk away. Your mental health and how you feel is more important to me than getting views. So that's not why I'm covering this content. I would like to cover a couple of things with you. So the main thing that I've sort of come away with this training, and the main thing is, no research has come about, no research shows that if you ask someone if they're having suicidal thoughts, makes them more suicidal. No research there, okay? And you may think, eek, that I just wouldn't be able to go there. I wouldn't be able to ask that question. How would I do that? Wouldn't I be putting thoughts into their head? Well, no research shows that. But on the other hand, it might actually have the opposite effect. And that effect might be that with you asking, firstly shows that you care and you're taking the time out to ask them because you care. It might give them a platform to talk. It might be the very first time someone has ever asked them about how they are feeling. And it gives them, an invitation to talk. That's important. Worst case scenario would be that, you just look like someone who cares. Or worst case scenario might be that that person sort of says, well, what are you asking me that for? Don't be so, don't be an idiot. Why are you asking me that? Of course I'm, that kind of thing. You might get that kind of reaction. On the other hand, the best case scenario may be that you might save someone's life by asking them. Okay. We don't want to sort of tiptoe around the subject. We don't want to sort of feel as if we're stepping on eggshells or we're trying to sort of sugarcoat suicide, because there isn't any sugarcoating when it comes to suicide. There isn't any. Okay, or wrapping it around in cotton wool, there isn't any. Then you might be asking, well, we're not sort of saying, are we, that we go around asking people, are you having suicide? Well, no, we're not saying that. No, absolutely not. But that person may be giving you signals, and that's really what we're talking about. Is there signals? Is there? Sometimes it can be obvious signals. It could be obviously somebody is sort of saying things such as, I don't see the point anymore. I don't see the point to life anymore. It wouldn't make any difference if I was here or not here. So it could be quite obvious signals. Other times it could be, I don't really see the point in, getting up in the morning and getting showered and getting ready and going, I just don't see the point anymore. It could be sort of slightly more vague. But the thing that we were taught, and we've been sort of taught before, when I trained up to be an instructor in mental health first aid, we were sort of taught to have that gut feeling to be, well, not to have the gut feeling because you have a gut feeling, but to be in tune of it, to acknowledge it and to listen to it. Okay, because a gut feeling is quite powerful. If you have that feeling about someone that just doesn't seem right, they're behaving in a way that's out of their norm, okay, not comparing to anybody else, but how they usually are, how they normally are. Does some alarm bells sort of start going? Are you getting that feeling that something just isn't right? It's not sitting well with me. And then you might have that thought as well. Are they thinking about it? Are they? But to actually ask them is actually quite empowering. It gets those thoughts out of their head, out into the open, for them to bring those words to the tip of their tongue and have it out in the open and have their ears hearing it, or have you saying, are you having suicidal thoughts? Bringing things out in the open can sometimes be quite empowering for that person, because that might help them realize that, oh, this is where I've been the last few weeks. This is really how I've been feeling the last couple of months. And it was just sort of stewing up in my own head. But now, I've actually brought it out. I've shared it with someone. And it might be, that shifting sort of process of that. Someone coming to that realization, this is how I've been feeling, and this is really how low I've got. And, maybe I do need help. And, maybe I don't have to feel like this. Maybe this is not the only answer, the only option that I have, way out of my pain. Maybe there is something else. And you see, it's giving somebody that key to the door, if you like, that there's possibly something else, that there is something else. And what is that? Hope. It's hope, isn't it? You're giving someone hope. So first of all, you do need to validate what that person's feeling. Because you see, the thing is that what's important for that person, or what's, let's say, driven them to that place, could be something that you may feel in your own sort of head and heart that sounds quite trivial. Surely that wouldn't push that person to the edge enough to sort of want to take their own life. Surely it's not like that. And you might be thinking that, but for that person, it could be that it is. Okay. And it's not for us to judge that. Who are we to judge that? We can only go on what that person's sharing, if they decide to share with us what that person is sharing with us. So let's say somebody does share with you that they have had suicidal thoughts. They do have suicidal thoughts. There's a few things that you can do. You can take that person off to doctor's surgery. It doesn't have to be a doctor's surgery or a clinic that you are registered with or that person is registered with. You can take that person off to any doctor's surgery. That doctor this is about the UK, really. This is what I know. That doctor does have an obligation to see the person you brought in. If they're overbooked and they're over, they just have not got the time, they may ask you then to take that person off to, your local A&E. I wouldn't advise that you leave that person there. Just drop them off there and leave them there. Chances are that as soon as you leave, they'll leave also. Either make sure that you've contacted a friend or a relative, someone that they trust, got that person there, and then leave, or maybe stay with that person until they've been seen. There's also 999 if somebody is actually standing on the ledge ready to jump, or at the brink of a bridge, let's say. You wouldn't put yourself in danger by climbing out onto the ledge with them. You wouldn't do that. That's not an advisable thing to do. You could try and talk to that person gently, but you'd actually call for emergency services in that instance, and you'd be calling the police, not an ambulance. You'd be calling the police in case that person has a weapon or some kind of something on them which might, they might harm themselves with, or they might harm somebody else with. And you would, because then the police could actually, restrain them to keep that person safe and others around them safe. Okay. So those are some of the things that you could do. What we don't want to do is, tell that person that, what you're feeling and thinking is trivial. Get, sure that, you'll feel better. We don't really want to do that. We don't want to give them false hope either that, everything will be okay tomorrow. We don't want to be doing that either. That's important. So, we're not all going to be experts on how to intervene with someone who's, feeling suicidal by watching this video. The reason for this video is just to raise awareness that, there's just a little intervening or a small act of kindness or just giving someone your time could actually possibly save their life, is really the main message. You don't have to be doing something massive. You don't need to be, rugby tackling someone off the edge of a bridge. It's not really what we're talking about. And that wouldn't be a safe thing to do. So no one would advise you to ever do that. But it might be just a soft, gentle word with somebody. If you did see someone standing there, because there's lots of people that would be standing there, maybe taking pictures, filming it. There'd be plenty of people doing that. So if you were the one that was going up to that person saying, you look as if you could do with a friend right now, and most of my friends tell me that I'm a really good listener. Is there anything that you'd like to share with me, because I'm here? Can we move back a little bit? Should we just go up to the side for a minute and have a little chat? That kind of thing would probably be the best thing that you could do. Because as I say, there's plenty of people. I've heard when being around the London Underground, and if there's delays, it might have been because someone's thrown themselves on the line, and some of the things that you hear is, oh, my train's late and I'm late for work now and I'm late for this. Not giving any kind of thought to the person who felt that they couldn't go on, or the train driver, or the family of the person who's sadly taken their life. It's just so insensitive, and it's so painful to hear. But we do hear that. We're losing someone in the world to suicide every 40 seconds. So just, me playing this video and recording this video, it's already 13 and a half minutes long, perhaps. Just think how many people we've already lost. In the UK in 2023, we lost over 7,500 people to suicide. In the United States, I believe in 2023, it was 49,000 people. And then again, the thing is that the thing to think about is that the numbers are actually higher than what we're stating here, because sometimes people make their suicide look like an accident, to sort of mitigate the distress it might cause to their friends and their loved ones, their families. It could be that there's just not enough evidence. If there was no suicide note left, then there might not be enough evidence, and it might, after inquiry, might be put down to death by misadventure, because we just didn't have we didn't have enough evidence to say that it was actually suicide. So the numbers are actually going to be higher than what we know. There's countries where it's not all remote areas, remote villages, where things just aren't recorded that way. And then there's other reasons. It's like religiosity can come into it, where it's seen as the cardinal sin, so it's just shoved under the carpet. Hush, hush, we can't talk about that. We can't say that that person took their own life. We can't do that. We can't say that, because we're going to be ostracized by our society and our community, our communities. So there's all sorts of reasons why the stats wouldn't actually all get there. So I hope you found the content of this video helpful. If you get that gut feeling, do ask. You're not going to suddenly put that idea in somebody's head. You're not going to do that. You might actually save someone's life. This has been a difficult video to do. I've actually done a couple of these videos and then not uploaded them, but I felt that after doing this course last week, I felt that no, we need to be talking about it more. We need to be sharing. We need to be creating platforms where people can come forward and talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more we're going to sort of normalize talking about it, dismantle the stigma around, mental health and suicide. And that's what we need to do. And when we do that, we're going to hopefully save lives. We're losing 3 times as many men, male to female so far. So we're letting men down when, we've been saying things to them, that men don't cry and all that. And I'll be doing a video about that, about stigma around mental health in another video. But, we're paying the price for certain ways of that, how we've been behaving for years and years and years. We still use the word, commit suicide when, suicide was decriminalized in 1961 in the UK. But we still use words like commit, as if we're committing a crime. You don't want to give the added on, that someone who is suicidal is also a criminal, that they've got enough that they're dealing with. So we don't want to add to that. So let's just be thoughtful and mindful about, what we say and how we behave around such a sensitive topic, but a topic that needs to be talked about. It's not going to go away if we just brush it under the carpet. It's still going to be there. And it is there, isn't it? Thank you. I hope you found the content of this video helpful. Please do share it if you feel that it's going to be of help to someone else who's struggling at the moment. Please do share it. Please like, subscribe, please comment. Let's get this conversation going. Thank you. See you in the next video.